My name is Pierce. People call me a detective. I don't mind the title, though there are places I've been and things I've seen that no rational title can fully contain. This case, this one I almost left behind, buried in a folder marked unsolved. But some bells never stop ringing, even long after you've walked away. It started with a letter. Not an email, not a phone call. A physical letter, thick parchment, folded carefully, handwritten in ink that bled at the edges. No return address, just a seal, a symbol I didn't recognize at first. A bell hanging upside down, cracked down the middle. The handwriting was elegant, almost too careful. It read, Detective Pierce, I require your presence at Ashford Hollow. A sound has returned. The bell tolls again. I nearly threw it out. Cranks and eccentrics are my daily fare. But something about the way the word, again, was underlined 3 times stayed with me. Like the author wasn't warning me of a noise, but of a memory. Ashford Hollow. The name stirred a loose thread in my brain. I remembered it faintly. A ghost town nestled deep in the Pennsylvania woods. Once home to a small community of miners and their families. The kind of place that had one road in, and rarely anyone coming out. It had burned in 1972. I drove in the next morning. The path to Ashford Hollow was barely visible, overgrown and fighting to return to forest. My rental car groaned in protest as I navigated through brush and faded stone markers that once lined the old trail. There were no signs, no welcoming committee, just fog. Thick, unnatural fog that clung to my coat and filled my lungs with the scent of damp earth and something else, faintly metallic, blood-like almost. The hollow itself was a ruin, shattered rooftops, warped door frames, and the blackened bones of houses too proud to fall entirely. But what caught my eye was the church. It still stood, tall, narrow, and pointed like a blade against the sky. The bell tower had survived the fire, though the wood around it had blistered into charcoal. And the bell, God help me, it looked new. I approached cautiously, my steps muffled by moss and rot. Inside, the air shifted. It was warmer than outside, despite the open windows and broken walls, as if the church itself breathed. And then I heard it, a toll, faint, deep, resonant. It didn't echo, didn't bounce against stone. It went through me, like a whisper from the marrow. I froze, listened. Nothing followed. I climbed the stairs toward the bell tower. Each step creaked, groaned, but held. Dust clung to the walls, except near the top, where it was brushed away. Recently, I reached the belfry, and I saw it. The bell, silvery and smooth, hung from beams that should have collapsed years ago. But they were intact, strong. Below the bell was a small altar, fresh flowers, a worn photo, a ribbon, blue, tied in a careful bow. And the photo, a little girl, no older than 6, eyes wide, not smiling. In the background stood this very church, intact and untouched. The image was dated October 1972, the month of the fire. I took the photo, tucked it into my coat, and then I saw movement, a flicker of white below, a figure running. I descended fast, nearly slipping on the last stair, burst out of the church, but there was no one, only fog, and the smell, stronger now. I circled the building, flashlight sweeping across collapsed pews and broken stone. Then I saw something carved into the back wall, partially hidden beneath ivy and ash. She rang it, to bring them back, but something else answered. My skin prickled. The air around me had shifted. A low hum vibrated in my ears, as if the world itself had begun to breathe with me. And somewhere, deeper in the hollow, the bell tolled again. Ashford Hollow didn't have cell signal. No GPS, no bars, nothing but static on the radio. I had a paper map, barely legible, and even it felt outdated. The town was supposed to be gone, but something had kept it breathing under the skin of the forest. I returned to the church as the light began to dim. The sun was still above the tree-line, but the shadows had lengthened. I stepped back into the nave, the boards groaning under my boots. That strange warmth was still there, thick and almost expectant. I approached the altar where the photo had been. Nothing had moved. The blue ribbon still fluttered slightly, though there was no wind. I leaned closer, inspecting the dust for prints. Tiny smudges. A child's fingers, no bigger than a 6-year-old's, fresh. She'd been here. Whoever she was, or whatever. A faint scraping sound came from behind the altar. I drew my flashlight, moved toward the noise carefully. Behind the altar was a wooden hatch. Not hidden, but certainly meant to be overlooked. No handle, just a groove and rusted hinges. I wedged it open with my knife. The smell hit first, musty, wet earth, and old decay. Then the ladder. It descended into darkness, about 15 feet down, into what looked like a crypt or basement. I dropped carefully, the air thick and still. My boots landed in a puddle. The beam of my flashlight cut through the dark. Stone walls, moss, shelves, dozens, filled with strange objects, dolls with missing eyes, locks of hair, crucifixes bent into odd angles, pages torn from hymnals with symbols scribbled over them in charcoal. And in the center, a circle of ash and bone. Animal bones, I thought, at least I hoped, arranged deliberately, with a large candle melted flat in the middle. But what caught my breath was what stood behind the circle. A figure, still as stone. Not a person. A mannequin, human-sized, dressed in an old black funeral suit, its face crudely painted to resemble an old priest. But its eyes, they were too real. Glass maybe, but glinting like they saw me. There was a note pinned to its lapel. We called to save her, but she called something else. The air suddenly chilled. I turned to leave, and I heard the whisper. Right behind me, a girl's voice. He said the bell would bring them back, but it lied. I spun around. Nothing. Only the mannequin unmoving. The whisper came again, now closer to my ear. It's still here. It never left. The bell rang. Above me. Muffled through stone and earth, but powerful. My ears rang, vision blurred. The mannequins on the shelves. There had been 1 or 2 before. Now there were 5. I hadn't blinked. I scrambled up the ladder, heart pounding. The church above looked darker. The light filtering through stained glass had shifted. The colors were wrong. Red where there should have been blue. Shadows where there should have been light. And the pews were filled. Figures. Silent, unmoving. All facing forward. Each of them, burned. Clothes scorched. Skin blackened and cracked. As if frozen in the moment the fire had consumed them. None moved. But I felt their eyes on me. Then the voice again, soft, distant. Only the bell knows the truth. I backed away, nearly stumbling out of the church. The fog outside had thickened. Night had fallen faster than it should have. Somewhere deep in the town, the bell rang once more. Louder this time. Angrier. Something was waking. And I wasn't sure if I'd come here to solve a mystery, or to become part of it. The fog was alive. It moved with intent, thick tendrils curling between the trees and buildings like fingers searching for something, or someone. I didn't have a plan, only instincts, and they screamed at me, "Get out." But as I stumbled through the old cemetery behind the church, I saw something that made me stop. A fresh grave, unmarked, but the dirt was loose. I knelt and brushed aside the top layer with my hand. Not more than a foot down, I struck something hard. Wood. A box. Crude. I pried it open. Inside, wrapped in cloth, was a bell. Small. Handheld. Blackened by time. It pulsed faintly in my grip, like it was breathing. And there was something else. Another note, tied to the bell's handle. To silence it, one must ring it. To be free, one must listen. I didn't have time to question it. A shape moved in the mist, then another, and another. The burned congregation was no longer inside the church. They were outside now, surrounding me in the fog, silent, charred, watching. And then, one moved. A woman, her jaw melted halfway to her collarbone, stepped forward. She pointed to the bell in my hand, so I rang it. The sound was wrong. It wasn't loud. It didn't echo. It was quiet and soft, like a lullaby played on broken bones. The figures froze. Then, in unison, they turned and walked, not at me, but through me, like mist passing through mist. And with each step, they began to fade. One by one, they vanished into the fog, until I stood alone, graveyard silent. No wind, no whispers, only the bell in my hand, now cold and still. I left Ashford Hollow before sunrise. The road that had led me in was barely visible, but somehow, I found my way out. Once I passed the tree line, the signal on my phone returned. The sky seemed brighter. Normal. I reported what I could. But no one found the town on satellite. No church, no cemetery. Nothing. It's not on any map. But I know what I saw. What I heard. Ashford Hollow is still out there, waiting in the fog. And the bell? I keep it locked in a box, buried deep in my office closet. Some nights, I swear I hear it ring. Just once. Soft. Like a whisper from something that never really left.